You can begin.
Good evening, City of South Fulton. How are you all this evening? I am Councilwoman Helen Zenobia Willis, and we are here tonight to host a forum with the three candidates, one incumbent and two candidates who are seeking to fulfill the House Representative seat, District 65. We have our host this evening, Mrs. Deidre Dukes, and I'm going to tell you about her before we turn it over. And we also have the Honorable Pro Tem Councilwoman Carmelita Gums, who's co-hosting, and we are in partnership with Cedar Grove Community Club. And so we have Ms. Lynn King tonight representing the Cedar Grove Community Group. Councilmember Gums and I both represent Welcome Mall and Clintondale, and she's going to give you a little she's going to tell you a little bit about her area when I defer to her in a few minutes. But Clintondale encompasses, Welcome Mall, District 3 encompasses Clintondale and Welcome Mall. We have about 15,000 residents. And typically for countywide elections, we yield districts 2 and 3 the most registered voters to the poll. And so as a result of that, we know that we have very engaged residents, we have astute voters, and we want them to make sure that they're educated on not only the issues, but the candidates and their platforms. So we are hosting these series of forums of all races that impact our area that we govern. And we're not making any official endorsements. We're not catering to any political party. We just are hosting these forums so that we can get the information out to residents so they can make an informed decision when they go to the polls. So thank you for your attention this evening. And I'm going to defer to Ms. Gums, Councilmember Gums, before I introduce our moderator.
So thank you all for joining tonight. We are excited about this forum. What I have learned and experienced in this process, there are certain things that I didn't know about the candidates as well. So I'm learning just like our constituency. Just to, like Councilwoman Willis stated, we have very engaged districts. And it was important for us to take a proactive step in making sure that our voters were engaged in this process, because June 9th is right around the corner. And of course, with the COVID-19, it kind of put us in this whole new virtual reality, especially with the absentee ballots and things of that nature. So we have adjusted to the virtual way of life. And this is one of the things that we need to make sure that we have an active voice in this political process. So thank you all for joining. I'm excited about our moderator, Ms. Deidre Dukes. I'm pretty sure she's going to keep us on track tonight, and we're going to do the right thing. But again, thank you all. I know you all are offering yourselves for service, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. King. Mrs. King.
Good evening, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening. I am Lynn King, and I represent the Cedar Grove Community Association. And this is a very important election year, and many key leadership roles are in play this year. So we here in Cedar Grove believe forums like this make it easier for all of us to learn about the candidates and develop our own points of view so that we can make more informed decisions at the ballot box. So I thank you all, candidates and our moderators and our councilwomen, for joining us tonight. And I'm sure our viewing audience will find this a very worthwhile use of time. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And let me tell you about our moderator. I'm excited to have her this evening. Her name is Deidre Dukes. She's a news anchor and reporter. And when Deidre Dukes is not reporting the big story from the field, you can watch her. She anchors on the weekend editions of Fox 5 News, 6, 10, and 11. Since making her move to Atlanta, Deidre has been involved herself in a number of community programs, working closely with groups like Junior League of Atlanta, Center for Black Women's Wellness, and the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists as an advisor to the American Red Cross Minority Recruitment Program. And of course, she is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Deidre and her son reside in South Fulton and are members of Zion Hill Baptist Church. Thank you for moderating for us, Ms. Dukes. And without further ado, I will turn this over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening to everyone out there. I wanted to take a moment to thank Councilwoman Willis and also Councilwoman Gumbs, and of course, the Cedar Grove Community Association for hosting these very important forums. It's so important, I think, that residents in the city of South Fulton, even now dealing with all we're dealing with, have the opportunity to hear from our candidates. So we thank you very much for making this opportunity possible for so many people in the past and coming weeks. Participating in tonight's Georgia House of Representative District 65 Candidate Forum, incumbent Georgia State Representative Sharon Beasley Teague, and challengers Amber Doss Hunter and Mandisha Thomas. And we thank our candidates also for joining us this evening. Now, I'm going to briefly give you the rundown of the format of this evening's Q&A session. It is as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement, and candidates included in those opening remarks, we would like you to speak to why you are running for this office and what uniquely qualifies you for this seat. Once again, we ask that you include answers to those questions during your 2 minutes of opening statement. You have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Candidates will then have 90 seconds to respond to questions from the moderator and residents submitted in advance. And candidates will receive 60 seconds for rebuttals if requested by the moderator. And candidates will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement. And we do want to once again acknowledge the Cedar Grove Community Association for providing questions for tonight's forum. So without further ado, we will get the questioning portion of our program underway. We are going to begin with opening remarks. The candidates will have their opening statements rather. The candidates will have 2 minutes and we will start with Representative Teague. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to do this. This is very important and very informative for the community. We have a lot of citizens that need information, and this is one way of getting it out. I am Sharon Beasley Teague, and I've represented parts of South Fulton for 28 years. And the reason I'm running again is because with experience that I have in working in the various places that I worked, one, Lockheed Martin, building aircraft and negotiating contracts because I'm a machinist for 30 years. The last 7 years I've spent coordinating with the retirees around the state of Georgia and in the legislature. And all the things that I've worked on in the committees in the legislature for the past 28 years, it makes me qualified to be able to do what we need to do now during this period in our lives where we have totally had to change how we live and how we do things. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. And I believe with the experience that I have, that I am the right candidate for this time, for such a time as this. And I volunteer myself to be able to run again and do the job and represent all the people of the 65th House District. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Teague. We will next hear from Ms. Hunter. Ms. Hunter?
Hi, I'm Amber Doss Hunter. My family has been a resident of South Fulton for 12 years, and I am a member of Local Union 479. I am a political science student at Clark Atlanta University, and as a community activist, I also help raise funds for single mothers experiencing homelessness and LGBTQ youth experiencing homelessness. I decided to run for state representative because I think it is time for us to change how we handle healthcare. A young adult who has aged off their parents' private insurance should be allowed to receive Medicaid and shouldn't be denied. A family of four that that makes $30,000 per year before taxes should not be denied Medicaid. Also, I decided to run because this district deserves an active leader, a leader who is going to put the people first, be proactive, and also be accessible in making policy and accessible to the needs of everyone within our district. I am a firm believer that we should boldly fund education, and we should also create smart, effective economy. My name is Amber Dawes Hunter, and that is why I am running. That is who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. And Ms. Thomas, if we could hear from you, please, your opening statement.
Greetings. My name is Mandisha Thomas, and I'm running for state representative of House District 65. District 65 is comprised of 6 cities and 2 counties: Chattahoochee Hills, Douglasville, Fairburn, Palmetto, South Fulton, and Union City. My mission and my vision is from the people of District 65, which is my platform. They want environmental justice. If you've ever ridden through District 65, you may see yard signs that say environmental justice, because that's what the people of District 65 want. So I'm fighting environmental justices and injustices in our communities: food deserts, food insecurities, transit justice, water, air pollution, and also quality healthcare options, quality healthcare facilities, and quality healthcare providers. What makes me uniquely qualified is my policy and procedure experience. I'm a small business owner right here in the city of South Fulton, and I've been a small business owner for 11 years. What I am is a consultant. I develop healthcare startup businesses. And in that, I create policy and procedures that allow them to actually get a state license. So in those policy and procedures, as far as me writing them, that makes me uniquely qualified because it's the best attribute to have as a state legislator. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. My next question is for all 3 candidates, and it really gives voters an opportunity to really get a better idea of your vision for District 65. What are your priorities for the district in the coming year? What will you focus on in those first 6 months? And why and how did you select these matters? And of course, as each candidate answers, if you'd like me to ask the question again, I'd be happy to do so. Ms. Hunter, we'll have you respond first.
Hi, well, I firmly stand on boldly funding education. If we boldly fund education, we can end the cycle of poverty. If we boldly fund education, we can activate the mind of that next engineer, activate the mind of that next scientist. And these times that are coming up, we don't know what we are coming into. So we have to invest in our children. We must invest in our schools. And that is where I stand. And that is what I am standing on. Boldly funding education.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Next, Ms. Thomas, if you could answer the question, please, what your priorities are for the district in the coming year, your focus the first 6 months, and how you came to pinpoint the issues that you'll be focused on. Ms. Thomas? I think Ms. Thomas may be having some technical difficulties, so we'll move to Representative Teague. I'll allow you to answer that question, and then hopefully by the time you finish, we can go back to Ms. Thomas. Ms. Teague? Representative Teague?
Repeat the question again?
Yes, of course. Of course. What are your priorities for the district in the coming year? What will you focus on in those first 6 months? Why and how did you select these matters?
Okay. The 11th of June, we're going to go back in session to finish up the 40 days that we had completed. And our #1 priority in Georgia is to have a balanced budget. We're going to have a 14% deficit starting out from this COVID-19 piece, from all that we've been going through, all the businesses closing and whatnot. So we believe our receipts, our income is not going to be enough to carry Georgia like we have done in the past. So we're going to be dealing with that. So 2 of the months, once we go, we're having meetings now, this is May, and next month, we're going to cut the budget and 14%, and we'll have to live according to that. And I'm praying that people are going to be creative, which is what my godmother, who's 100 and will be 103 next month, she said that we were so creative during the epidemic before that people, well, they plant their own food, they killed their own food, they did all the various things they needed to. And then we made clothes, we did so much. So we're gonna have to cut corners just to make it. And those that have jobs will have to, the income will have to take care of a lot of times the whole house. So I'm looking at being able to help create, like I've done in the past. We created different policies and whatnot, so we can have more minority participation with state funding and with, yes, ma'am. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Teague. Ms. Thomas, can you hear me? Ms. Thomas, can you hear us now? I think you can hear me, Ms. Thomas?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the question again. Great. I'm going to ask you the question again. What are your priorities for the district in the coming year? What will you focus on in those first 6 months? Why and how did you select these matters?
Well, the priorities are my platform, what I'm running on. So that, and I talked about that, is to incorporate some others, which is mental health resources, job training, job education, and youth workforce development. I particularly want to work with youth workforce development for 17, 18, and 19. The programs for job training and job education, and we can also do that through the CBDG grant.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, we are having a little bit of an issue with your call, your video. I don't know if that's something you might be able to work on while I ask my next question of the incumbent. So perhaps you can work on that on your end, because it's so important, of course, that we hear from all of the candidates tonight. And I know you've made great effort to be here. Moving on to Representative Teague, we have a question for you. You've held this seat for many terms. What accomplishments are you most proud of, and where do you still have opportunity to improve?
Okay. When, one of my first accomplishments was changing the minimum wage in the state of Georgia. And I really needed that to happen. And so, because I'm a union person and we negotiate wages, and I look forward to doing it again, because unless we do that, we're going to always be behind. And then a lot of it, of what we're doing, like right now, our farm people cannot get their crops picked because we can't let people in. So I'm looking for ways to work with the Department of Agriculture so that we can have people to come and help pick the crops so that the crops won't go bad, because they're throwing away stuff. So people are giving it to people, but you have to pick it, and it won't have to cost them so much money. Then I'm looking at benefits. I always look at benefits. So I'm looking forward to people having health care from their employer. It would be cheaper. And mental health, we're looking for money in the budget to be able to make sure that we have more money for the different services that people that have mental illness will be able to get, because we're having more people to get in the lines and whatnot, because this is very stressful at this time for many people. So I'm looking forward to being able to help them allocate money. Thank you.
Representative Teague, thank you. Representative Teague, the question, part of that question was, where do you still have opportunity to improve? A viewer is posing this question. Records show you have one of the highest absenteeism rates in General Assembly. Is this accurate? And if so, why is that? And again, that comes from a viewer.
I don't believe that. We have meetings and people call you while you're in session to come out to the fence, out to the line. So I don't know. I haven't been absent that much. You see an E beside my name, don't mean I'm not there. I'm not in that room at that particular time. So we can probably sit down and go through, possibly not the person that I was talking to at the time, but they do call us out while we're in session. And rather than to just not have a vote there, I would rather for them to put an E there so that they'll know I'm somewhere around.
Thank you, Ms. Teague. Thank you, Representative Teague. Our next question is for Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, you've run for several different seats in the last 4 years. What have you learned about your community from those races, and how has that informed the way you're approaching this particular race? Ms. Thomas? Perhaps someone can get on the line with Ms. Thomas. I don't think she realizes that her camera, that she's having some issues with connectivity. So perhaps someone could reach out to her, and I'll move on and come back to that question.
Also of District 4. What's
Ms. Thomas?
so apropos about that is that, yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. If you'd like to answer the question, your time will start now. Yes. Ms. Thomas? And I think we have lost her. Again, we'll move on and we'll come back to her. This next question is for Representative Teague. The City of South Fulton recently celebrated its 4th year, and during that time, what have you done to support solving environmental hazards in the City of South Fulton, such as the now 20 months active landfill fire?
Okay, I work with the committee that natural resources, and I don't put out fires, but we called and we talked to the state and how they handle it because of the improper handling of the total situation. It wasn't to my liking, but it was absolutely nothing that I could do because I couldn't go over the city when they were negotiating and talking to people, and other legislators getting in the way made it quite difficult, because even when the lawyers who were working with some of the residents would call, they would say things like, well, we have talked to this one and that one, and they were having meetings and whatnot, negotiated nothing. So I am a negotiator. So I'm not going to waste my time or anyone else's, especially in an active situation like that. People, the smoke, it makes people who have asthma, it made them sick with the smoke in the air. So I know what it's supposed to look like, but when you have people that want to be in charge, I'm not going to fight them with that. I'm just going to talk to the people, the resources that I have, to be able to see what they can do to help. With no money in place, that made it very difficult.
Thank you, Representative. Do we have Ms. Thomas back on? Can you hear us?
Dialed in.
Okay, great. I tell you what, we're going to go back to that question that I posed to you earlier and give you an opportunity to answer it. You've run for several different seats in the last 4 years. What have you learned about your community from those races, and how has that informed the way you're approaching this race?
Yes, I ran for City Council in District 4 in 2017, and what's so apropos about that is that almost all of District 4 sits in House District 65. So it really gave me an opportunity to be extremely engaged with the citizens, learn what their issues are, what they expect from an elected official. And I think I've combined that into my platform and what I've been doing in the community. Based on the projects that I've been doing in the community. Can you hear me? I'm getting an echo back.
We're getting an echo, but we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, based on the projects that I've been doing in the community, It's like 4 or 5 echoes. I'm sorry.
Apparently, we're having some technical issues. The staff members have muted all of the mics as we try to resolve this. We ask for your continued patience. You realize that during this time that modern technology has proved interesting for all of us at one point or another the past several weeks. And we continue to invite you to share your questions with us so we can pose them to our candidates via these Zoom group chat. Once again, we are working on getting all of our audio together. Ms. Thomas, can you hear me? Apparently she can't hear me. And all of the mics are muted at this point. And perhaps there's a reason for that. So I'm going to ask a question of Ms. Hunter and Ms. Thomas that was posed by one of our viewers. And I'm going to ask Ms. Hunter to answer the question first. Since Ms. Teague touched on this already, I'll give the other candidates an opportunity. They would like to know how the other candidates, Ms. Hunter and Ms. Thomas, plan to address the ongoing landfill issue that continues to plague District 65. Ms. Hunter, if you could answer that question first, please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, we need to, I am not sure anything that has been done about it or anything that hasn't been done about it. So I don't really want to speak on that too much. However, I will say that we must continue to invest in infrastructure so that we don't have those type of issues and situations with the landfill. So investing in infrastructure.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hunter. And Ms. Thomas, if you can answer that question as well. The question posed, what would you do to address the problems, the landfill issues here in District 65?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. Did you hear the question?
Go ahead with the question.
The question, a viewer posed the question. The question was asked of Ms. Teague, Representative Teague earlier, how you would address the problems, the ongoing problems with landfill here in District 65, the landfill issues.
I'm planning on working with the governor and EPD. It's a lot of feedback. I hope you can hear me, but I plan on working with the governor and EPD on ensuring that we get the $500,000 that was designated to assist with putting this landfill fire out. I'm not sure what happened to the $500,000 that another state representative not in the district was instrumental in actually obtaining. I also want to write some legislation specifically for okay, it muted me.
Environmental
My bad.
program.
Am I back?
Yes, you
Can
are.
you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Okay, it muted me.
So I don't know if you heard that
Can you hear
last
me?
part.
If you would repeat it,
Okay.
please.
I don't know
Repeat
if
that
you-
last.
Heard that last part.
Yes, please repeat yourself, yes.
The last part was I want to work on some legislation specifically for landfills under the environmental justice program that I want to create. The environmental justice program is essentially a template, and it's a template that the cities in District 65 or any city in the state of Georgia can adopt. I think it's very hard to go against policies once you actually have some in place. So this would be a guide towards the cities to incorporate an environmental program towards their city.
Thank you.
And I'm back.
My next question is for all three candidates. What elements of the City of South Fulton City Charter are you in favor of changing and why? And what other city charters have you reviewed and or recommended changing? And we'll begin with Ms. Hunter, if you could respond, please.
I am so sorry. You kind of cut out for me. Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course, of course. What elements of the City of South Fulton City Charter are you in favor of changing and why? And what other city charters have you reviewed and or recommended changing?
Well, from my perspective, that is a local issue and not a state issue. With the charter, cities have charters with the state. So I have not viewed any charter in particular to even change any charter because that is a local issue.
All right, Representative Teague, what elements of the City of South Fulton City Charter are you in favor of changing and why? And what other city charters have you reviewed and or recommended changing? You're on mute. Representative Teague is on mute. We can hear you now, Representative Teague.
All right, thank you. The charter changes that they're talking about, none of the legislation has come from the City of South Fulton, nor other cities. And you work with the cities when they give you things to do. If the city decides that they want to have certain charter changes, like they did have some activities going on with some of the employees, and they made some changes there that we had to do in the legislature because it was dealing with a judge. So what we do charter cities, we do write them up so they can come. That's how we got the City of South Fulton. But I seek the city's involvement in letting me know what they want to do in the city, because I'm not here to run the city. I'm only here to assist as far as the state is concerned and getting the legislation passed. And we've gotten pretty much all that we wanted passed. We just didn't get no money. And that's some of the things that we really, as a delegation, we should work on, but it just didn't happen. Now with the money for the landfill, see, it wasn't they didn't negotiate that piece like it should have been, because the state wasn't going to give up all that money. They were saying different places you could go and get money. At least that's what they would tell me. So, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Representative Teague. And the same question for Ms. Thomas. Ms. Thomas, what elements of the City of South Fulton City Charter are you in favor of changing and why? And what other city charters have you reviewed and or recommended changing?
Can you hear me, Mr.?
Yes.
Okay, great. I muted my computer. I have reviewed the charter for Sandy Springs during the process of helping to get the City of South Fulton here. There's a lot of feedback. I'm sorry, so it's going to be a little delay. But the charter is definitely a state issue. The state actually writes and creates the charter. And as far as making any changes in it, there have been several changes along the way within the last 3 years. And then just some additional changes that were done on this session, 2020. That was House Bill 921, House Bill 1019, House Bill 986, and House Bill 965. House Bill 965 should have taken care of any errors or any gray areas, anything that was straggling out in the charter that was unclear or you couldn't tell what the intent was. So we may be fine with that. But as far as creating local ordinances for the city, I would recommend a strong collaboration effort between the city and the city council that governs the city. all the parts of your question.
Turn your phone volume down, and that may address the noise there, the feedback,
Okay.
just the volume.
What I'm gonna, okay.
Moving on to our next question, which has an added sense of urgency as the legislature, the state legislature reconvenes in June. Georgia's local lawmakers call for a hate crime law in Georgia. The question for all the candidates: do you support instituting a hate crime law in Georgia? Why or why not? And Ms. Thomas, we'll ask you to address this question first. Oh, we may have lost Ms. Thomas. Representative Teague, if you would answer the question, please. Do you support instituting a hate crime law in Georgia? Why or why not?
Well, we've already passed it in the House and I voted for it. I helped to get people to support it. And this past week, we had members to go down to Brunswick to help show why we need it. But I already knew, I came out of SLC. I already know when people are doing you wrong. So we definitely need it. Our young men from the 70s, the missing and murdered children. So I've been here for a minute. And so we weren't able to really do justice by that. And so this to me just brought up all those old wounds and whatnot, because we're still, people are still feeling like they can just kill somebody in my community, even though he wasn't here, but he was Black. That wasn't bothering nobody. And that's a terrible thing. So as soon as they bring it out again, hopefully the governor will sign it, because it's in the Senate. And those of us that work on that, we passed it. It's very important legislation. We got to have it because things have not changed in the hearts and minds of man. We may live in a different neighborhood, but things have not changed. And I pray for that change to come. But until then, we need to have a law to make what they did something you can take to court. Because that's the problem. They can't take it to court. They can't do nothing with it.
Ms. Hunter, I'll ask you to step in now and answer that question. Do you support instituting a hate crime law in Georgia? Why or why not? Your mic is mute. There you go.
Okay.
Again, Ms. Hunter, please.
Yes, I really do support a hate crime bill here in Georgia. You know, it's really tough to.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ms. Thomas. The question I'm posing to you, do you support instituting a hate crime law in Georgia? Why or why not?
Yes, I do. I know that there was a bill passed just before the session ended, maybe a week or two before the session stopped. I think that was Representative Chuck, and it was House Bill 426. I am for all people and all people's rights. My tagline for this campaign is the people's seat, and that's not just a cliche. I believe in the people, and I will fight and stand up for their rights.
We have a question from a viewer along these same lines. The question: thinking about the recent shooting of Ahmaud Arbery, do you support stand your ground laws? Ms. Hunter, your response?
Well, from my perspective, hate crime, the stand your ground law has always been used against a person of color, from a Caucasian person to kill or hurt or harm that person of color. So from my perspective, I do not support the stand your ground laws because they are used to disenfranchise and hurt Black people and people of color. So no, I do not support that.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Ms. Thomas, do you support stand your ground?
Revised. They just unmuted me. I think it can be revised. I don't think that it's being used with the original intent, and so that's why I would ask for some revisions. especially the part where you're applying lethal force, regardless of whether safety, you're retreating from safety in a situation. So I know what the intent was. I'm just not sure that it's being utilized with that intent.
And Representative Teague, where do you stand on stand your ground?
I think we need to get rid of that, because obviously people don't understand what the intent was when they came up with it, because all I can see doing is killing Black and brown people. So there should be another way to get the attention of people other than killing them. Like they shooting in cars, killing young boys and girls and whatnot. That's not what the intent was. But I tell you now, if we get rid of it, make it fair for everybody to be able to live and exist. See, the moral majority just been quiet, has went along just to get along, but it's out. We have to live in a safe environment. And all these things that they said, people said that they scared this, that, and the other. Come on, my children need to live in a safe environment without fear of being shot, killed, or whatnot in the community that they live in. Just because of the color of their skin, that's not good at all. So no, that's not good. That's not good at all. And I lived through the missing and murdered children, and it was horrible. And it's just brought all those memories back. I called several people who worked in the community with me when we would go out looking for the children. So we got to make the community safe for our babies. It's just got to be. And creating all these laws where you have all these minimum, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Representative Teague. Our next series of questions deal with the issue of education. And the first question, Representative Teague, I will pose to you first. It's for all three candidates. Many believe that the numerous school vouchering bills proposed over the last few years were nothing more than bold attempts to take public tax dollars and funnel them into the private sector, and that they would ultimately bankrupt public school systems in the Metro Atlanta area. Are you for or against school vouchering, and under what conditions? Representative Teague.
Okay, I'm not for school vouchers. I never voted for it because we never fully funded the public school system. If we had just funded it like it was supposed to, when they were talking about all these different things that they wanted to do, they didn't get fully funded until maybe 2 years ago. And by the way, that bill that was passed a year ago that's in the Senate now, hate crimes bill, see, it's being held up there. And so when we pass things in the House for education, it gets turned around because they're trying to segregate the schools again, because everybody can't participate on that level. Every parent can't take off from work and be with their child. That's what I saw. So if giving the money, taxpayers' money, to private sources, that's not good. Unless if you fully fund schools like they did the other year, and make it where everybody can get along, it'd be fine on that. But I don't care for it at all, because our teachers need more resources. I have more teachers out here than you can check a stick at, and some are retired, many are retired, but still they need help. They need their paycheck. They need it to be increased. Right now, everybody get to see how hard a teacher works because the kids are at home. It's not a play thing. It's serious. My family, I understand it. So just hitting that about raise this and raise that, that don't work. You have to give them their money. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Teague. The same question for Ms. Thomas. Are you for or against school vouchering, and under what conditions? Ms. Thomas?
Someone approached me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. The question for you, are you for or against school vouchering, and under what conditions?
Yes. When I ran for state representative of House District 65 in the 2018 race and came very close to taking the seat, I was approached by someone dealing with the school voucher program. After speaking with them for quite some time and a couple of other legislators who actually are in support of the vouchers, I found that this is not something that I would be interested in. I think I was living in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area at the time that the first voucher started in Washington, DC, and I think DC is the only one that's fully federally funded. But no, I would not be in support of the school voucher program. And that is the one you're talking about is the one with Betsy DeVos?
The question has been answered in generality, not a specific voucher program.
Okay, dear.
Okay, and last but not least, Ms. Hunter, your views on school vouchers.
I think we should use the voucher system as a broad stroke in education. I do believe for our public school education, we should fund that boldly to the degree that we can. We know that there are other schools that offer other opportunities for our children. However, we should also boldly fund education in our public schools, and to effectively use the funds that our parents already put into our community, we can also offer our children free school lunch. And we can offer them reduced school lunch, then we can offer them free school lunch. That is effective spending for our schools, our public schools. And I do believe all K through 12 students should have free lunch. That is effectively using our families' funds, effectively our taxes. So, but no, I don't think we should use the voucher system as a broad stroke, but do understand that other schools offer different opportunities because all of our children learn differently. So we must give our children that opportunity.
We are going to stay on the topic of education because we have a few more questions from viewers regarding education. And these questions will be once again for all three candidates, and Ms. Thomas will ask you to answer this question first. How would you plan to partner with schools to improve the lives of their families?
Well, one thing that I want to do to improve the lives of families, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to partner with the schools and with our farmers. I want to make sure that our fruits and vegetables that our farmers are growing right here in District 65 are in Fulton County and Douglas County school system. We do have an election for a new school board member, and I have been in discussion with some of those candidates because I would also like to partner with them on building a new workforce sector for District 65 through agriculture. And so I want to couple that with the job training and education. And I want to educate and get ready students in agricultural jobs, such as environmental engineers, bioinformatics scientists, biochemists, and agriculture economists. These jobs all range from $86,000 to $104,000. I also want to partner with the school system, the cities, the municipalities in District 65 and Aerotropolis on making this workforce development project happen.
Ms. Hunter, how about you? How would you partner with schools to improve the lives of these families whose children attend schools there?
Yes, I would actually partner with parents and see how I can get a parent liaison to have that middle person to work with the school so I can truly understand what is going on and what needed. So I would say partnering parents, having that parent liaison, also providing foods and snacks, also like Mandisha said, getting local farmers to provide fresh vegetables and fruits to our students in our schools. And also with COVID-19 coming up, well, in the middle of COVID-19, we don't know what's coming behind that. Also making sure that our schools are clean and safe and they aren't breeding grounds for other things. So that is how I would partner with the schools.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. And that same question for you, Representative Teague. How would you or do you partner with the schools to improve the lives of their families?
Okay, we already have job training programs. We already have children that can go to high school and get a dual degree college credits. We already have technical school training. You can go to technical school and learn how to be a machinist and make $86,000 a year with training. So we have, you don't have to have 4-year degree or you be and worry about having debt when you get out of college. You can get you a trade and make you some money. $86,000 is not something you can just sneeze at, and pay for your own way through college like I did. So it's a lot of things that we have already done. We're the 65th House District is a Title I district, and most of our kids are on free and reduced lunch already. So, and they get breakfast. So a lot of this that you're talking about is already in play. And I have worked the last 28 years to make sure we keep it in play. So I just want to make some changes, whereas we can incorporate more things in the school system so that the teachers won't have to take so much money away from themselves when we say we're going to give them a raise. And like now, we're not going to be able to give them the rest of their money. Thank you.
Representative Teague, and this question is for all three candidates. You touched on, Representative Teague, the free lunches, which brings to light just the great need we have in our community of students who are going hungry, families who need help in that area. How would you address food hunger and food deserts in Georgia?
Okay, I would do like I'm doing now, because what we do is we buy from one another. We have people that they have eggs here, they have meat here. I grow tomatoes. We just do things, like I said, to work it out where we all can have food and do to help ourselves and our families and our community. Somebody needs milk, I'll go and get some milk, or when I go to the store, I call and see. That's the community coming together. We in this together. And that's the one thing I understand from a child when I watched that community I lived in, that even here, we're in that same community. And there's no big eyes and little eyes. We all get out there and do what is needed. I have a friend that I work with at Lockheed. He has the garden, and we're eating the crops from the garden. And those that can't pay for it, they can even come pick and get free food, free vegetables and whatnot. And we're willing to train. That's the other piece. We have training in the high schools around here. They come down to the Capitol. We fund these programs. All the things I'm talking about is already funded, but they'll probably get cut after this 14%. Be blessed. Thank you.
Ms. Hunter, asking you the same question. How would you work to meet the needs of those in the community who are going hungry right now, to do away with these food deserts that we're seeing here in Georgia?
So working with farmers, working with farmers, setting up stations where farmers can sell their goods, sell their fruit, sell their vegetables. That is how I would work with the community and feeding the community. And like I said, with the start of COVID-19, the first thing that we noticed was how our children going to eat. You know, they aren't in school. How will we feed our kids? And the first thing that our schools did and community members did was rally up and feed children. You come to the school, we'll give you food. So effectively using taxpayer dollar, and when school is back in session, if we can acknowledge that students should receive reduced cost lunch, we can acknowledge that maybe we should just go on and feed them all for free, because parents have already paid into that with taxes. And if we provide school basketball uniforms, football uniforms, schools provide all of that, why can't we have our schools also feed our children?
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Ms. Thomas, the same question to you. How would you address the food hunger and the food deserts in Georgia?
Money from the state of Georgia is going to be scarce when it comes down to that budget. And I think it was said earlier that that budget had already been cut by 14%. The governor had sent out a memo to state department heads to cut your budget. And I believe that was 14%. When the legislators go back in June, the Office of Budget and the State Committee of Appropriations are going to have to cut that budget, cut every piece of fat off that budget. There may not be any monies to provide food. So that's why one of the things that I've been doing is the Georgia Grow Box giveaway through my nonprofit, where I was able to give 250 Georgia Grow Boxes away, 4x4 box, fertilized soil, and 3 packs of seeds. What I'm doing is educating the community on how to build and provide their own food supply system, because we do have a food supply chain that's broken. It has been broken. It hasn't anything to do with COVID-19, hence GMO. We don't start cloning food if we don't need it. But I will continue to do the Georgia Grow Box giveaway. And one of my legislative goals, and things have really shifted because of COVID. So really, I don't know what that first 2-year term would look like if I'm elected. But one thing I do want to make sure is that every Georgian can have a free grow box if they want it. I want to make that available to every Georgian through our state budget. And so that may not come for a year or two, because we really have to crack down on some things that has hurt us from COVID.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Another question from a viewer posed to all 3 candidates dealing with our economy. What challenges do you believe we have with driving high-end economic development in the district? How do each of you plan to assist in overcoming these perceived challenges? And I'll start with you, Ms. Thomas.
Well, with economic you said high-end economic development?
Yes, driving high-end economic development. What challenges do you believe we have with driving high-end economic development in the district? And how do each of you plan to assist in overcoming these perceived challenges?
Well, you can have high-end economic development. That doesn't mean that someone with a median income couldn't afford it. If we're looking at the city of South Fulton, I believe the median range of income is $40-something thousand. I know that there's a couple of plans for a town center maybe coming closer to District 1 or 2 of the city of South Fulton, and an Atlantic Station coming to District 5, 6, and 7. Those are high-end economic projects, but it still can cater towards medium to moderate income. So I don't see where there's going to be a situation where we may be pricing someone out or pushing them out. They're not able to afford things that may be presented economically to the district.
Representative Teague, if you could answer that question, what challenges do you believe we have with driving high-end economic development in the district, and how do you plan to assist in overcoming perceived challenges?
I'm planning on working with the cities and help with legislation. You see, I'm on Ways and Means. I'm one of the senior members in the Georgia General Assembly. And I know we give tax incentives. So we're gonna have to give some more tax incentives. We're gonna have to maybe bring in some, but we'll have to be able to do the type of negotiating that it would take to get the business to come. But first of all, we have to have the proper infrastructure. We could not have the Serenbe if we didn't have the proper infrastructure for that to be there. So we can do what we necessarily need to if we find the right people willing to do it and negotiate and understand what's supposed to take place. Just coming up with a figure and whatnot, that don't work, because investors are looking for places that they can get the most out of. And we're looking for, by living here 50 years, we're looking for what we can get that would be the best for our community. And planned growth is important, even though it don't look like it right now, but it is. So since we have a city that's 3 years old, we can have planning and put places in place and do the proper expansion in our city. But we have to have the infrastructure. And then we have to get our schools to become top rate so that people want to come. Because right now we have warehouse jobs, which is fine and good. They pay $15 an hour. That's much more than the minimum wage. But we need others. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Representative Teague. And if you could answer that same question, please, Ms. Hunter, what challenges do you believe we have with driving high-end economic development in the district? And how do you plan to assist in overcoming these challenges?
Well, they are coming. We have the land and we have the business space for it. So they are coming. My issue is making sure that our students have the education, that we create the workforce for those businesses that do come. And also in our schools, activating that our child's mind so that they can invest also in the community. Once they graduate high school and go on and become that entrepreneur, they can come back to District 65 and invest in the community as well. So investing in education is how I do plan on tackling that, because we have the land, we have the space, they are coming, and investors are here.
Thank you. We are moving on to now a question about the legalization of marijuana. Are you for or against the legalization of marijuana? Why or why not? We'll pose that question first to Representative Teague.
Okay, I, Sharon Beasley Teague, voted for the medical use for the different oils and whatnot, because my late husband, Teague, Richard Teague, had sickle cell. In the 80s is when he died. And what they would tell me, the control of pain was never, they never saw control of their pain. And so that would help them. His body developed antibodies to sickle cell. So the babies he would give blood so the babies could have his antibodies to help them. So I formed the Richard James Teague Memorial Fund to raise money for Grady Hospital Sickle Cell Clinic to help with that. It's just so much that one could do, but I've done a lot, and it's important to me that everybody understands we got to work this together, because all the people do try and help. We go across county lines and whatnot to try to get things done. Thank you.
I'll ask that same question of Ms. Hunter. Are you for or against the legalization of marijuana?
I am for the legalization of marijuana. If we at least decriminalize marijuana, we can use those fines and use those funds to fund the expansion of Medicaid. So I am definitely for the legalization of marijuana. Also, I am for the legalization of medical marijuana. Medical marijuana sets us up to be creates jobs, entice investors to come here and invest in our community. So yes, I am for the legalization of marijuana and medicinal marijuana. Marijuana also has healing properties of helping those with mental issues such as anxiety and depression. You know, people who have seizures, if they take medical marijuana, it has been shown that medical marijuana has reduced their seizures. So definitely, I support medical marijuana, the legalization of medical marijuana and marijuana in general, cannabis in general.
All right, Ms. Thomas, where do you stand on the legalization of marijuana? Your views?
Yes, I do support the legalization of marijuana. I think we need to decrease some of our petty crime and petty crime offenses, and that's one of them, along with shoplifting, public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and I guess possession of cannabis. And so the thing about it is, and I had this conversation with a voter in Chattahoochee Hills. He called me about it, and he is in a situation where he needs medical marijuana, and he was enlightening me on the benefits of it and how it would affect him a great deal. And what I told him was that I'm for it, but you have to have the support from it for your colleagues. It would be asinine to work on a bill or a piece of legislation, put an enormous amount of energy into it and don't have the support and it doesn't pass. So I'm for it if we have the support for it, because there's so many bills that we need to be working on, and we have to prioritize them, and having the correct support for it helps you prioritize it, helps you know if it would pass or not. But I will say, in this abhorrent time that we're in, this may be the perfect climate for this to pass. So this is something I would definitely look at in my first term, because this might be the climate for it.
Which leads me to my next question, Ms. Thomas, touching on COVID-19 and the devastating impact it has had on the nation, the world, and of course, our communities right here in Georgia. The many challenges local nursing homes have faced in regard to stopping the spread of COVID-19 have essentially ended in tragedy. What measures will you support to ensure that nursing homes, nursery schools, and other private entities that cater to our communities most vulnerable are safer? And I'd like Representative Teague, or rather, I'm sorry, Ms. Hunter, to address that question first.
COVID-19 has been a learning curve for everyone, for those in elected positions, and for me, a citizen of in District 65. So I think a quicker response, now that we know, now that we are in this generation of experiencing something in this pandemic like COVID-19, it is very important to react as soon as possible. I think if we had a quicker reaction to the nursing homes, I think that it could have been a different outcome. So reacting quicker, making sure that those workers, those essential workers, have the proper PPE that they need, and make sure those facilities are clean to the degree that they need to be. So I think a quicker reaction to those facilities and making sure that they have all the necessary PPE and cleaning supplies that they need to function properly.
Thank you. Representative Teague, now if you could answer that same question, please. What efforts would you make to ensure that the most vulnerable in our communities have safer living environments, safer nursery school environments, and as it pertains to COVID-19?
Okay, I have always said that the policies and how we run state with sanitation and sanitizing places like we do a kitchen, that these facilities need to, and they're going to have to, change how they've been doing business on care of the patients and whatnot. See, this, I don't find this situation that we're in now going to end next year, that we will have to do all these precautions on and through the years. So had we probably had an advance notice, which we didn't, we could have changed some things earlier, but we have people in the legislature that we're writing policies and whatnot, so that we'll be able to better detect and fend off anything like this from happening again or spreading. Because the thing that I learned from my grandmother was things spread, diseases and things spread from just the touching, things not being clean. And we just have to change the way we do business and the way we take care of ourselves.
Thank you, Representative Teague. How do we, Ms. Thomas, work to make these facilities, the nursery schools, the nursing homes, other entities, private entities, to make them safer in regards to COVID-19?
You do that through policy and procedures. And I think I mentioned that in my opening, that I write and create policy procedures for state healthcare facilities. you write, I also write infection control plans when I'm writing their operational policy and procedures. I would advise an increase in policy and procedures in emergency management and a requirement that facilities contact the Department of Community Health, who they're licensed by, and the CDC during any time that there is a outbreak or any infection disease outbreak in a facility, a healthcare facility or a daycare or any type of facility. So I would say stronger policies requiring facilities to notify these individuals quickly, and increasing the infection control plans to have policies that address outbreaks, infection controls, and airborne diseases.
We have time for one last question before we have closing statements from our candidates. It's a viewer question in regards to Medicaid. Do you support Medicaid expansion in Georgia? Why or why not? Ms. Thomas, I'll ask you to address the question first.
Yes, I do. I do support Medicaid expansion. I think it's about 37 states that have, and I haven't heard one of them come back and say, we need to come back to the table. This is not working. We made a wrong decision. It seems like it is working well. And with the health disparities in our communities. With COVID, we need it more than ever. And the government pays Medicaid at 100% with a 10% spend down after the 3 years in that. And 1 out of 5 Americans are enrolled in Medicaid, which is about 74 million people. So why Georgia is behind the times on Medicaid expansion, I don't know. But there is a House bill, and I have to look back and see where that bill is at. I don't know. They may still be working on it. I think it's House Bill 37. One of our South Fulton legislators is part of that bill, Representative William Bodie. It is House Bill 37, and that is it's part of, I think it's under the Affordable Care Act, but it's an act to expand Medicaid, and I think it's called Expand Medicaid Now Act. So I'm not sure where that is in the General Assembly, if they're still working on it or what have you, but that would be something I would love to see passed, House Bill 37.
Thank you. Representative Teague, are you for Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
Yes, I am for Medicaid expansion. We have been talking about this for a while. That has been part of the Democrat agenda. We have many hospitals have closed in Georgia, in rural Georgia. And over the years, we've had them to close here in Atlanta as well. But with Medicaid expansion, people could have hospitals near them. We could have better health care for the children. With Medicaid expansion in the state of Georgia, we'd have a whole lot more jobs, because health care is where the jobs are at this time. And the nurses and doctors on the front line now, we need to raise some more nurses and doctors and whatnot. We need to be able to expand healthcare all over Georgia. And once we can get the proper people in place to do that, with the ingenuity to be able to work through the hiccups and whatnot, we'll be a better Georgia. So we'll be healthy, we should be educated, and we should be able to work through any type of health problem that we might have. Because if it's healthcare is accessible for everyone, they'll get the right things done for them, instead of doing a hit miss here and there like we're doing now. Because people have to come all the way from Augusta to come sometimes to Grady. We send them all over. We have a cancer treatment place out here. If you don't have insurance, you can't go. They don't take the indigent like they do at Grady and some of the other hospitals.
It's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Teague. Ms. Hunter, where do you stand on Medicaid expansion in Georgia, for or against?
I support Medicaid expansion. You know, expanding Medicaid sets us up to be proactive in healthcare. If we are sick, we can't work. And if we don't have health insurance to go to the doctor, that means we might be sick a little longer. If we expand Medicaid, more people can get the mental health care that they need. With COVID-19 has revealed also a lot of underlying issues with Medicaid and why we should expand Medicaid, because even with COVID-19, although we do have a act on the federal level that gives us free testing, if you don't have health care, you are still in charge of paying that medical bill, that COVID-19 healthcare bill, which is upward of $30,000. So I support Medicaid expansion. Medicaid expansion creates jobs. So yes, and also Medicaid expansion also gives us an opportunity for entrepreneurs to open primary care facilities. If we get more people here in District 65 covered under healthcare, we could get those healthcare facilities and quality healthcare facilities that we need, because more people will be covered. So yes, I support Medicaid expansion.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. And that will be our last question. We've covered a lot of ground here. You all now, candidates, you all will have 2 minutes for closing statements. We will begin with Ms. Hunter. The floor is yours.
I want to thank everyone who has supported my campaign, and thank you for everyone for tuning in live and looking at this platform for all of us. Thank you so much to Councilwoman Willis, Councilwoman Gumbs for even creating this platform, and Cedar Grove Community Association. Thank you so much. I am Amber Doss Hunter. It will be an honor for me to serve in District 65. I will be an accessible state representative if elected. Also, I will be proactive to all the needs in the community while creating policy that moves us forward, that propels us. So I thank you. My website is amberdosshunter.com if you would like to look more into the campaign. But thank you so much. And it will be an honor for me to be in service. And I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, thank you to everyone that put this together for us tonight. Councilwoman Willis, Councilwoman Gumbs, you, Ms. Dukes, and the Cedar Grove Association. Thank you, Ms. Lynn King. Elected officials, they have a phrase that they use all the time. And it's I work across the aisle. So if they're Democrats, they say I work across the aisles with Republicans. If they're Republicans, they say I work across the aisles with the Democrats. And I start to cringe when I hear it. I mean, that's good. We need to work together. I'm all about collaboration. I'm one of the biggest collaborators in District 65. But my thing is, when are you going to work with the people? That's just not a cliche that I just threw on my campaign materials. The people see. This is truly the people see. I don't need this for my legacy. I do so much work in my 20s. I've done so much community service work. I've done enough for a lifetime. So it is not about my legacy. It's about the people. And I really come from the standpoint of Amendment 10, a constitutional Amendment 10, which basically the delegation of powers to federal government and states and the people. And I was reading the other day, someone did a synopsis of Amendment 10, and I'll read it to you. It says, when states and local communities take the lead on policy, the people are that much closer to policymakers. And policymakers are that much accountable to the people. For most Americans, they don't have access to their president, but they have access to the mayor. Most Americans have spoken to their mayor. So that means you may not have access to the president because of his status, but you do have access to local government. So what I want everyone to think about is, do you have access to your state representative? If not, a vote for Mandisha Thomas ensures that your voice will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Representative Teague.
Yes, I am Sharon Beasley Teague, and I have served for 28 years, and I'm looking forward to serving you for 2 more years in the Georgia legislature. I have a website. You can Google my name and all of that will come up. But I have enjoyed it, and I look forward to serving even longer. I'm looking forward to working with the community, which I have worked with for all these years, even before I was elected. So it's just what you do as a citizen of the community is work with the citizens of the community. And I'm looking forward to that. I have done a lot of things that could help people in how they perceive a lot of things. And those that work down there at the Capitol with us, they know that we have to work across the aisles. I have to work with my neighbors. I have to work with my church. As a matter of fact, my church is feeding people today, Temple of Prayer down in Fairburn, my bishop. Then I work with other people that do feeding of people. The Christmas time, we give out food and clothes. Back to school jam, I've been doing that for over 30 something years. So if you work with people and you listen to what they say, you understand that all I'm doing is what the Lord has placed in my heart. And he's at other people to come and express how they feel about it. And I'm thankful for it. I look for the opportunity to serve 30 more years. God is able, I'll do it, because this is not a work for me. This is what I love to do, is to help people. I've been doing it so long, and not just the 28 years that I've been sitting in this seat. I have been a very responsive legislator. And because of that, I feel as though that we can change some things if we work together. I will always believe that we can do that. And praise the Lord for all of you. Thank you all for hosting this. And Deidre, I really appreciate you being here tonight and trying to work through the problem. Thank you. Y'all be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Teague. And thank you all to all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. That concludes the Q&A portion of our program. And at this time, I'm going to turn things back over to our host.
Okay, thank you so much for participating to all the candidates. Thank you, Honorable Deidre Dukes. You did an awesome job.
Thank you.
You got the community questions in. You were totally fair to the process. I'm sorry we had some technology challenges, but I think that, most of the candidates got to answer their questions. Thank you all. And thank you for being willing to serve. And thank you for serving for 28 years, Representative B. And thank you to the 2 other ladies for your willingness to serve. And good luck to you all. Councilmember Gumbs.
So I think Councilwoman Willis pretty much covered it all. Again, thank you. It was a great forum despite the technical challenges, but Deidre, you led the forum, and I love that. So I appreciate Honorable Sharon Beasley Teague for the work that you have done, and Amber Doss Hunter for you lending yourself in service, and also to Mandisha Thomas as well. So again, good luck. And again, continue to make sure that our voters and our residents know to vote on June 9th. And early voting starts May 18th.
And thank you all women for standing, being courageous.
And our next forum will be also, I believe, on Monday, the 18th.
Yes.
And that is District
35 and 39 Senate races.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So,
all righty.
Tune in.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Lynn wanted to say something.
Oh, Lynn, did you want to say parting words?
Oh, certainly, if you don't mind. Thank you all so much. This has been a pleasure. I think that, as I said initially, I think voters will be far more educated on the candidates and the platforms on which they stand, and can make informed decisions at the ballot box. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who took out their time this evening to participate in this. All honor to you, Ms. Dukes. You did a fantastic job. To all you candidates, I wish you all the very best. Councilwoman Willis, Councilwoman Gums, thank you so much for allowing Cedar Grove Community Association to be a part of this. Myself and my colleagues were very, very proud of our participation in this forum, and we look forward to the next one. And you all have a great evening.
All right.
Thank you.
you. And thank you to the residents as well.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.